Afternoon, everyone. Apologies once again, we're a little bit late. Hopefully you're hearing me okay. A little bit late. Half-term holidays. Never good, are they? When you become the sole carer. You've got to work out ways of entertaining the kids. Brilliant way of entertaining them this afternoon. Took them to the dentist. Kept them quiet for a bit, that's for sure. But there we are. Rally Sweden. Back to what we're here to talk about. Rally Sweden. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Well, do you know what? Yesterday we talked a bit about the brilliance of Rally Sweden. Maybe we should put a fourth descriptor there. The brilliant, the good, the bad and the ugly. Because Ogier for me was outstanding. We talked enough about that yesterday. But again in that brilliant category, what else would I put? Well, I would put Glenn Olsen. A lot of you might not know who Glenn Olsen is. He is the CEO of the promoter of Rally Sweden. He's basically the managing director, chief executive officer of the company that runs Rally Sweden. And my goodness me, he had a difficult week last week. Huge pressure on him, financial pressure in terms of the future of the event, pressure in terms of the comments from the drivers, from the FIA, from the promoter, all kinds of pressures on Glenn Olsen. Really out with his control. You know, the weather is something that Sweden relies upon, and occasionally, once every 25 years, they get a period of weather like the weather they've had this time round, and the pressure on Mr. Olsen and his team there at Rally Sweden was immense. But they came up with a workable plan. They believed, they trusted the weather forecast, and my goodness me, it turned out so well, didn't it? It was a great Rally Sweden, and Glenn Olsen and his team got their just rewards. They got a 3-year deal. There was talk, wasn't there, about various other rallies. I think that was a little bit of gamesmanship. I think there was maybe a little bit of extra pressure being exerted on Rally Sweden to accept the deal that was on the table for them. We were never going to go to Russia. I can't see us going to Russia with the World Rally Championship for many reasons. Last time top-level rallying went to Russia, it was the IRC. Wasn't that great. Canada, well, I've got a little bit of experience of North American rallying. Fabulous though it is, it's still quite a long way away from hosting a World Rally Championship event. So Canada might be one for the future, but it's certainly not a winter event that can slot in the next 2 or 3 years. The other one, which is more of, I suppose, a threat to Sweden's long-term future in the championship, is Japan. You know, we've been to Japan in the past and we've seen some great events in Japan. Again, though, wasn't going to happen overnight. That's another 2 or 3, maybe 4-year plan with Toyota behind them. Japan, for sure, will be pushing for a slot in the calendar. Whether that's a winter or a summer rally, we'll have to wait and see. But they were the brilliants. They really were. Sebastian Ogier and the organisers. The good in Rally Sweden. Well, there was an awful lot of good, wasn't there? In terms of performances, Hayden Paddon, exceptional performance, showing again progress, and that's really the hallmark of Paddon, is the fact that he continues to impress. And as we mentioned yesterday, what doesn't come naturally to Hayden Paddon is out and out speed. He has to work on it, and it keeps coming and it keeps coming and it keeps coming, and that for me is enormously encouraging for Paddon and for the Hyundai team. We look at one or two other drivers who I think perform very well. You'd have to say that Ott Tanak. A number of you have asked me to mention my thoughts on Ott Tanak. I'll be completely truthful about Tanak. I think the results maybe haven't been what we would want to see from Tanak. I think he's doing as much as he can with the package he's got. He's got a fabulous car. He's got tyres that, particularly on these opening 2 events, I think have been tough for him. I don't think those D-Max are competitive. I think if we're being brutally honest, they're not competitive. Not on tarmac, and the winter tyre also was a little bit away from that fabulous Michelin winter tyre. So Tanak will be hoping for a better performance from his tyres when we get to gravel. And I think we've got every right to expect that. So he falls, for me, very much into the good category. I tell you who else was good. Danny Sordo. Sordo was unlucky to pick up a puncture on the Saturday morning, but he was looking good. And again, all looking really quite hopeful for the Hyundai team. The bad. Let's go on. Actually, before we go to bad, let's mention WRC2. It's far too easy to just gloss over WRC2 because, again, in the good category, verging on the exceptional was Elfyn Evans. His performance in Monte Carlo was really strong. It was a different Evans we saw in Monte Carlo. Enormously impressive Elfyn Evans, particularly as he kind of felt he had a point to prove. He'd been kicked in the arse, he'd been demoted, if you like, from the main WRC team at M Sport, asked to do a job, and he did it brilliantly in Monte Carlo. There was good opposition there. There was enormously strong opposition for Elfyn Evans in Sweden. We had Esa-Pekka Lappi, Anders Gröndal, we had Pontus Tiedemann, and many others. Who else did we have? We had Fredrik Olin, many others who are very much snow and ice specialists. And Evans, once again, hardly put a wheel wrong. Hardly put a wheel wrong. And put pressure on all the other guys, and he won convincingly. Great effort from Evans. We'll definitely throw Elfyn Evans into the good category. Top of the good category, I would say. 9 out of 10 for Elfyn Evans. Hard not to give him 10 out of 10, actually, isn't it? And why would I not give him 10 out of 10? I'm not sure. There's always got to be room for improvement. That's why I will not give him 10 out of 10. But let's go into the bad. Well, bad quite often is a precursor for luck. Bad luck? Precursor? Is that the way you say it? Probably not. Bad luck. Bad luck. Can't mention anyone other than Chris Meek. How does it happen? How does it happen? It happened in Monte Carlo where that rock appeared. Very odd, very unlucky. I think it was just dislodged in Monte Carlo by the car in front of him, and the angle was changed, and that's what caught his sump guard. And I think his car was a little lower than the other cars as well. But here in Sweden, he was going exceptionally well. And you know what? I think if he'd not had that problem on the Friday, I think his road position, his natural speed, ifs and buts and maybes, he could have won this event. Chris Meek could have won it. So bad luck for Chris Meek. In terms of bad was unfortunately Thierry Neuville's car. Again, 4 events in a row now that he's had failures with either transmission or suspension parts on his car, and that for me is just bad, and it needs to be sorted quickly. Now, we mentioned, well, you see, why have I got a mic? I've got a mic. I'm struggling. You see, I've not got my glasses on today, so I really can't read these messages, but I could read that one. I've got a microphone, because otherwise I have to shout at my telephone. I'm good at shouting, as you well know. Microphone makes it a whole lot easier. It makes the quality for you guys listening that little bit easier as well. That's why I've got a mic. Very simple, very straightforward. Do you know, Hyundai, worries me a little bit. You know, I think this is a good car they've got, a really good car, a competitive car in the right hands. And the right hands for me right now with Hyundai is very much Hayden Paddon. Neuville building confidence again, rebuilding his confidence, but he needs some reliability from that car. Remember, it's only a 12-month car. It's a one-season car. It's a year late. We thought we'd see it in Monte Carlo last year. It's a year late. They haven't got an awful lot more time with that Hyundai to develop it. Oh dear, low battery. We'll close that, shall we? Sorry about that. They haven't got an awful lot more time. You know, Paddon's telling us, well, it'll come. We've got to work on the speed a little bit. It's a 12-month car. You know, they've got to find these issues. They've got to identify them. They've got to find the performance gains as soon as possible, because before we know it, we'll be looking at the brand new Hyundai, and this one will be out the door. It's one of the shortest-lived excursions into the World Rally Championship. The SX4 only had 12 months. One or two other cars have only had 12 months. Not many in the history of the World Rally cars. But, as I say, the bad for me was the reliability on Thierry Neuville's car. He, more than anyone, needs a good run at it, a really good run at it. So he needs to find some reliability. Do you know, other bads? I'm struggling to find so many that I want to criticise. For me, there aren't many others. Not off the top of my head, anyway. Ugly, though. When we get to the ugly, what? No one's just asked what I think of Obama. Who cares? He's American. He seems to do a good job. I don't know. I don't really pay that much attention to American politics. I know there's a bit of a strange fella jumping up and down claiming he's going to be the next president of the United States. That scares me. But other than that, I don't pay much attention. Obama seems to be a good man doing a good job. But there we are. Some strange questions coming in there. I'm not going to answer them. Back to the topic. You're quite right. The ugly. I'll tell you what was the ugliest thing. The ugliest thing about Rally Sweden. There's not a lot that's ugly about Sweden at any time of the year. It's a beautiful country full of beautiful people with a beautiful rally. What was ugly for me was the very unseemly argument and falling out between the drivers and the FIA. Wasn't nice. Wasn't nice to see. Wasn't nice to listen to. And it's got, unfortunately, the potential to rumble on The drivers feel they're not being listened to. The FIA feel... We have to kind of assume what the FIA feel, obviously, but the FIA, on the face of it, seem to think that the drivers are being maybe a little too precious. And that's very unseemly. It's very, it's very ugly. Those arguments should not be had in public, which is where they're being had, effectively. This very near to driver revolt on the Friday morning was very, very ugly. And it caused problems. Let me tell you, it caused problems. Even the clerk of the course was confused. We had a start time for Ogier. Clerk of the course was telling people Ogier was going through helmets off road speed. And Ogier was blasting through at 180 kilometres an hour. I need not tell you the potential ramifications of that sort of situation arising again. Very, very ugly. What I have to say is I have a degree of sympathy with the drivers. I don't know. Anyone that reads my motorsport news column today will understand where I'm coming from. I get confused. I'm easily confused by it all. It reminds me of a courtroom drama where, you have the prosecution and they roll in their star witness. Or not the star witness, their star expert. And he's an expert in his field. He's a professor. And he says there is absolutely no doubt that the accused has done this, and this is why. And then the defence roll in their professor from another university, who's also an expert in the same field, and he categorically says he didn't do it. How can that be? How can that be? It baffles me. It's the same thing as I see it between the FIA and the drivers. The drivers on one hand say, this isn't safe. We saw it in Australia last year. The FIA on the other hand say, it's perfectly safe. I don't get that. I really, really don't get that. Anyway, as I say, for me it's an ugly, ugly situation, and they need to get this resolved. They need to have a more formal way of drivers approaching their concerns. It needs to be done in private. It certainly should not be done in public. And it certainly should not be done out on the stages. There we go. That's my view anyway. We'll see what, if any further ramifications there are on that issue. So there we go. That is my good, my bad, my ugly. And to start off with, my exceptional from Rally Sweden. For me, Rally Sweden was an excellent, excellent event. Considering the problems that the event faced at the start, it was an absolutely... Oh, thank you. And I've got into so much trouble. Someone's just popped up there. Mr. Breen. Oh, dearie me. How could I forget? I've got no notes. Maybe that's a lesson for me. Maybe I should have some notes for these little broadcasts from my kitchen table. Mr. Breen. Oh, what do we say about him? I love Craig. Craig is just one of the nicest guys I've ever met. I've followed his career since 2009. When he won everything in the Fiestas. A super guy. I love watching his progress. And again, it's all about, as Hayden Paddon's shown, it's all about continuing to progress when you get into a new car. And Breen, he revelled in the opportunity that he was given at the weekend. He set some astonishing times. He had a top 3 time on stage 5. I think it was stage 7 it might have been. And he could have had others if he'd not been a little too enthusiastic about it. Breen, though, didn't... He had a couple of very, very minor problems over the weekend, but he showed tremendous, tremendous potential, Craig Breen, in that battle with Henning Solberg, and it was a delight to see Henning Solberg back. Henning Solberg reminded me that, drivers have to go out there and enjoy themselves, and when you're enjoying yourself, Henning Solberg is the least fit rally driver you might ever see. He is older than all the other rally drivers out there, but he can still set top 3, top 4 times. Potentially he can still win stages because he goes out and he enjoys himself. Forget surrounding yourself with all these people who are telling you how you should think, what you should do, what you should eat, what you should say. Henning just goes out and has fun, and he gets an enormous, enormous amount from that car because he is out there having fun. Now, guys, thank you very much. I think we've kept this one long enough. I'm trying desperately to keep these under 10 minutes. Someone said, what about Henning's brother? I think there's big news, big news coming up about Petter Solberg. I've been desperate to see Solberg back in the championship. As you well know, I'm his #1 fan. I'm a fanboy when it comes to Petter Solberg. I think we're going to see him back next year. I think we're going to see him in a proper car. And do you know what? I think he'll be competitive. In fact, I'm sure he will be. Guys, apologies if I've forgotten a few drivers, because there were more great performances out there. Maybe we'll come back later on in the week. Give me some ideas about what we can talk about later on in the week. But, I covered what I wanted to cover there in terms of the brilliant, the good, the bad, the ugly. Ooh, and it was ugly, wasn't it? But yeah, we can continue on Twitter, Voice of Raleigh. I'll try my best between looking after the kids, who remarkably have been quiet for the last 10 minutes. That's under pain of death, let me tell you. We'll continue on Twitter, shall we? At Voice of Raleigh. We'll have a little chat about anything you want to discuss. What I'm going to do as well, someone suggested this, I'm going to put this up on YouTube, and we'll keep these on YouTube, so that if you want to, you can go back and have a look, and you can say, well, you once said this, call, and I won't be able to say, no, I didn't. There we are. Guys, thank you all very much indeed for joining me once again from the kitchen in Stoke-on-Trent. It's been absolutely my pleasure to have you along, listening to my thoughts, my ramblings, my monologues. It's always fun. Guys, thank you very much indeed. We'll continue the discussion, if you like, on Twitter. See you there. Cheers.